Hey guys, my name is David and welcome back to my channel. Today, I thought I would do a wrap up for what I've read so far this year. I usually do these monthly. No idea why I haven't done them. Probably not feeling, you're in the mood, I suppose. Uh, I have read a good amount of stuff this year. I mean, my overall Goodreads goal is 50 books. And so far I've read 17. So not great, but still good, I suppose. And my overall thoughts about when I look at this, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some of these are like really easy reads, like graphic novels and mangas. But there are a few really good books I've read that are, substantial books. But I've been like doing my best. Been doing my best. Recently I've been kind of in a bad place mentally. Well, more mentally than physically. I'm feeling okay, but mentally, uh, been trying to hang in there. And I've been reading, easy things, like more graphic novels than anything else to try to get my mind off of things. But yeah, but I want to try to like read as much as I can. So yeah, I'm just gonna go through what I've read and rate and what I've rated them and all that stuff. But what I'm currently reading now is the second book in the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin, which is the Clash of Kings or A Clash of Kings. I've got about 70%, well not 70%, 70 pages into it rather, and it's really good. I'm really enjoying it. It's massive, probably bigger than book one, but I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I'll be doing that as a series of vlogs every 100 pages or so. And I'm also reading Old Country, which is a book that I got from my recent Abominable Book Club box. This is a horror, well, folk horror book, but I really like it. Yes, it is a bit repetitive, but I enjoy it, and I'm making my way slowly through it. And about 3 days more, I would have finished this. But really enjoying this. This is a really good, comforting book. So the things that I've been reading, I've made a list. The first one's the one that I started the year off with, and the last one is my most recent, book that I've finished. So the first one is The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is a fantasy book. I think it's a grimdark book, but it could be debated whether it's a epic fantasy or a grimdark or a combination of the two. But this follows on from where book one left off with the Shadow of the Gods. But Hunger is all about these massive, beasts, these massive god creatures, and the characters in it are really, really good. We follow our main characters as well as a bunch of other new characters, which I didn't really think that much of. But I like going on this journey with them. I like finding more about this world and about these beasts and gods. And yeah, I know that book 3 is going to be coming out soon. Not sure when, but when it comes out, I will definitely be getting on that. So, Hunger of the Gods, I rated a 4 stars out of 5. Not as good as book 1, but still a worthwhile read. Next was a poetry book that I read called I Bleed Star Seeds by Numeria. Numeria is a fellow booktuber, and I bought her poetry book and I read it and I loved it so much. I think I could best describe it as, in tone, as the poems by Edgar Allan Poe. And when I say that, I mean she bears her soul in the poetry. You can tell who she is and what she's feeling and her life experiences, and you feel that you're getting like a look behind the curtain at who she is and what's going on, not just up here but in her heart as well. Not sure if that's where her heart is, but or the heart, but that's where it is for this video. So if you are trying to get into not horror, poetry that is a bit unusual, I do say that it does have trigger warnings. So if you are triggered by um, um, people taking their own lives, depression, anxiety, and overall feeling a little bit shitty about life, which is enough to get everyone down, I suppose. But if you're triggered by that, then maybe steer clear away from this book. But if that doesn't deter you, then I would recommend this book. It is a fantastic read, and I rated it a 5 stars out of 5. Next was The Fellowship of the Ring, obviously by Tolkien. This is the second time I've reread The Fellowship. I'm doing a buddy read with Marissa Bailey on the whole trilogy. We've finished book 2, and we're going to we'll be going on to book 3 as soon as she's ready to read book 3. Don't really have to say anything about Lord of the Rings. Everyone knows what it's about. Even if you haven't read the books, you've probably most likely seen the films. But I love it. It is good, classic, epic fantasy. Tolkien is the grandfather of fantasy. And if you are into fantasy, or trying to get into fantasy, then you need to read Lord of the Rings. So obviously I rated it a 5 stars. Next was the first author request book that I read for this year, which is called Curse of the Frog Prince, which is part 1 in a duology, or maybe a continuing series that the author's writing. And this is done by a author which is called Madame Crystal Butterfly, and this is a fantasy book. The cover's kind of like, it throws you off because the cover looks like all like a children's book, to put it bluntly. But when you read it, you feel like it, you actually know that it's much darker than the cover makes it out to be. And yeah, I cannot wait to read book 2, which as soon as I get on top of the author books I need to read, like there is 2 that I need to read from authors that have emailed me personally, and I know there's 1 that I need to read, maybe 2. Yeah, I think there's 2 that I need to read on my shelves. So as soon as I get on top of that, I'll be going on to book 2. Cannot wait to get on that, because I know the book 1 left on the cliffhanger, or sort of anyway. So I cannot wait to pick up the story in book 2. I mean, this wasn't the greatest thing ever, but I liked it for what it was, and I rated it a 3 stars out of 5. All these marks will be out of 5, guys, in case I don't have to keep on saying it over and over and over again. Next I read was The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. I know that these books, or that book, is supposed to be one of the most extreme horror books ever, or one of them, anyway. And I knew going into it that it's based on a real event, that this actually happened. The book isn't exactly the same as what happened to the real life individual, but if you are familiar about that case, then when you read this, you'll know similarities between reality and fiction. But this revolves around our main narrator, who is called David. A great name by the way. And he's retelling his tale about a girl that he met that was ultimately imprisoned by one of the adults that was in David's life, and tortured and abused. Not just by the lady, but kids and friends of David as well. And it does really pack a punch. It really does, as you can imagine. It really does go there. It's not for the faint of heart. I'm not even sure if it's for people that are really into extreme horror. And if you want to go and read that book, guys, I would recommend that you watch videos on the real life case of the girl, which I'm pretty sure is called Sylvia Likens. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, watch documentaries and videos on the real life girl, and then if you feel, well, I won't say comfortable, but if you feel ready, then please read the book. It is excellent, and it's important to read it. Well, in my personal opinion, anyway, because things like this shouldn't be forgotten and swept underneath the rug and pretended like it never did happen, because it did happen. But I rated it a 4 stars. It was a ride, I'll say that. And the next thing I read was another Jack Ketchum book called Off Season. I read these back to back. And this is about a family of cannibals and uh, their encounters with people. It's like, what else do I need to say, guys? It is graphic, it is gory. Pretty sure this was the first thing that Jack ever wrote or written or whatever. Not as good as Girl Next Door, but still a worthwhile read. So I rated it a 4 stars. Next was The Lakeside Cemetery by Jessica Haas. Jessica Haas, aka our very own Jess the Book Freak, wrote a book. As soon as I saw her video, because I was at work and I couldn't watch the video because I was working, I saw the thumbnail, and based on that thumbnail, I automatically went on Amazon and bought it on my Kindle without even knowing anything about it, because I knew that I needed to read that book because I was interested to see what she wrote, and also wanted to support her as well, and to support the artist and the author and also the person. You should get the point. But this is a really fantastic book, really surprising. Not sure what I would classify it as. I mean, it's many things. It's horror, it's got suspense, it's got drama, it's got thriller, it's got a bit of detective work in it as well. Bit of romance sprinkled in, but not too much. But this was a really great book about a woman who's kind of a loner, and she keeps everyone at a arm's length, and one day she comes across or resurrects a man from the past, and he has to try to find out who murdered him, and she has to help, and she has to try to like make friends with people that she's working with in the coffee shop that she works with. And it is really good. It sounds confusing, but it's got a good flow to it, and yeah, it's really good. So I rated that one a 4 stars. Next was my first Junji Ito book of the year, which I've been meaning to read more of his work, and that was Shiver, which Shiver is a short story collection. And yeah, I didn't do a video on this. I mean, if there's a high enough demand, I might reread it and do a video on it, because I need to refresh my mind. But Junji Ito is a horror manga artist and storyteller. Everything that he does is perfect. There's only been about 1 or 2 things that I haven't really been too keen on, but if you want to get into Junji Ito, then you cannot go wrong with his short story collections. He is a master at his craft, and I love his work. So obviously I had to give him 5 stars. Next was a book that I got from my Abominable Book Club box, which was called Sister Made a Monster by Lucy A. Snyder. This is a horror book that I'm not sure whether it's supposed to, or it's trying to be edgy and dark for the sake of being edgy and dark. But it's kind of a zombie-ish story about these humans that have got this virus, and it transforms them into people that, or these creatures that eat human flesh and brains and blood and all that. And it's kind of got a like a queer romance in it as well, where when these 2 women are eating these brains or flesh or whatever, it gives them a kind of a sexual thrill. it was good. It was fun. It wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. It was kind of possible, and I'm pleased that I read it. I'm probably never gonna reread it ever again. I'll probably pass it on. But if I find anything else by the author, then yeah, sure, I wouldn't mind rereading or reading some of her other work. But for Sister Maiden Monster, I'm gonna give it a 3 stars. Next was a book that intimidated me like crazy, and that was A Game of Thrones, obviously by George R.R. Martin. Book 1 in the Song of Ice and Fire series. I have all the Game of Thrones, or well, no, sorry, Song of Ice and Fire books in my room. Well, the ones I've been currently written anyway. And I know that the series is famous for not being finished, and even more famous for supposedly not ever being finished, because there are 2 books left, and fans are speculating whether the series is ever going to be completed, because it's been about 12 years since the last book was published. But I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna read them, and I read it. I did it as a kind of a vlog format, where every 100 pages I did a vlog video talking about my feelings for that 100 pages, and I think at the end I did a conclusion video. I'm pretty sure I did. But this is epic. It really is. I wouldn't really be put off by a series that's not finished, because I know that, and the Kingkiller Chronicles was on the list as well, and which is much shorter. But I would recommend that you start or read Song of Ice and Fire, because George R. R. Martin, yes, he does write slowly, but he's an author which I've accumulated and gotten a lot of respect for. He's written more than Song of Ice and Fire. He's more well known for that series, but I love it so much. It's fantasy at its best. It's grim dark at its best, and yeah, I love it. I'm going to continue reading the series. As I said, I'm reading book 2, and I cannot wait to find out where the series goes and all that stuff, and sadly ends. And read more from George, and read more from his catalogue, because I've got more books from him on the way, and I cannot wait to read them. I've also got the Fire and Blood book, which is the history of the Targaryen household, so I need to get on that. But Game of Thrones, rated it a 4 stars. Then I read a King Charles book, which was like a picture book of the 100 Memories to the Throne. I got this because I wanted to read it before he got crowned King of England, and it was really good, really in depth. I felt I got to know him a bit better, and it was a pleasure to read. And yeah, I rated it a 5 stars. Next I read was volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the graphic novel of Game of Thrones, and because it's in 4 volumes. I love it so much. It's more or less like the book, but obviously a watered down version. The art in it is so great, and if you are kind of put off by the books, then yeah, I would recommend that you should read the graphic novels if you're intimidated by the book length or whatever. But yeah, but it's a great edition, and I had a lot of fun reading it and looking at all the artwork and the pictures and noticing all the little details. But yeah, I mean, if you are really intimidated by picking up the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, then yeah, just pick up the graphic novel, and if you like it, then read A Game of Thrones, because it's really good, and you shouldn't be put off by its size. But I rated all the volumes a 5 stars. I could have been nitpicky, but that's what I'm going to give it. Then I read The Two Towers, which is book 2 in the Lord of the Rings series, or arguably books 3 and 4. If you've read the series, then you know what I mean. But Two Towers was really good. Again, I buddy read it with Marissa again, and it's really good. Gonna do a video on it soon, so I won't say much here, but I rated it a 5 stars. Not probably the best book for me in the trilogy. It's probably my least favourite, but still a really, really good book. A lot darker than book 1. Then lastly, I read another Junji Ito book called Black Paradox, which is, again, really good, about a group of individuals that come together from a unique website that specializes or focuses around people that want to take their own lives, called Black Paradox. And it's a cosmic horror book, and they soon discover another world that has all these mystical balls or stones that contain human souls within them, and they find these portals within themselves that can transport these orbs from one dimension to our dimension. It's really hard to explain, guys. Like, one person has a portal within his stomach and keeps on throwing up these orbs, and people are really obsessed with them because they have a lot of energy and people sell them, and it's an interesting story. It really is. Not the most excellent thing that Junji Ito has ever written, but it's different and it's entertaining. So yeah, I rated it a 4 stars. So guys, that has been my wrap up for the year so far. I will be doing a separate wrap ups for these individual months from the in this year going forward, guys. So have no worries about that. But I just wanted to tell you about what I've read from this year so far. So if you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them. If you have any questions about any of these books, comment down below and I'll discuss it in more detail. And yeah, with all that out of the way, I'll see you in my next one.